Have you ever really used a label maker? No? Me either. It turns out, though, that all you need to do to make a label maker seem cool is to make it not a label maker. Make it a printer instead. Yeah, let's go with that. The Selpic P1 is a handheld printer, an idea that might sound absurd if you haven't heard of this sort of thing before or watched our review of Selpic's other handheld printer. Basically, you just use an app to come up with what you want to print, send it to this, and then just roll it along whatever you want to print on. Is it really that easy though? Opening up the box, the P1 printer itself is the first thing you'll see, but you'll notice it's not fully complete. This is because the ink cartridge and included cap are placed next to it in the box. Our review unit arrived with a black ink cartridge, which is what you'd expect from a monochrome printer. That said, if you need a little more color in your life, the company does sell differently colored ink cartridges. Now that doesn't suddenly turn it into a color printer, it just lets you print in one of 8 available colors. One of the P1's claim to fame, or rather claims to being any sort of useful at all, is that it can print on a variety of surfaces. This includes paper and cardboard, as you might expect, but also wood, plastic, glass, and cloth. We'll look at just how well it prints on those later. As I mentioned before, the thing I keep thinking of when it comes to how you might use this is as an alternative to a label maker, but it has other uses. If you find yourself needing to fill out the same type of form a lot, this could save you a whole lot of money on pens. We've previously looked at another of Selpic's printers, the S1. Now that one is more of a square shape, while as you can see, this is more elongated and just generally pen-like. The P1 is built entirely out of plastic, as you probably guessed, but it does feel pretty tough and like it would survive a few drops. Think about most printers, and the ink cartridge isn't usually exposed. Given the nature of the Selpic P1, the cartridge needs to be exposed to work. That means it's also prone to drying out, not to mention collecting dust. To combat this, Selpic has included a cap to cover the cartridge when not in use. This may sound like an odd thing to single out, but the cap is actually pretty nice, and the way it snaps on with a little magnet is kinda cool. Getting started with the P1 is pretty easy. Turn it on, launch the app, pair it, and it walks you through the rest of the process. Now you won't be able to use 5 GHz Wi-Fi with the app, as it does specify it wants 2.4 GHz, but that's a minor issue, and it's kind of in these things all the time. Once you've connected it to Wi-Fi, the app will connect to your network, then to the printer. Once it's gone through this process, you're ready to start printing. To do anything at all useful with the Selpic P1, you'll need the Selpic app for iOS or Android. And the app works pretty well, but it does have some quirks. For example, you can add text pretty easily, but you'll notice there's no way to select the font size, just the font face. Instead, you choose the font, add your text, then you'll need to scale it up using the tool below the main editing window, and then it's a little bigger. The problem is you only know how big once you actually print it, so this definitely takes a little trial and error. That said, you're not limited to just text. You can select from a number of clip art style images that Selpic has included, and you can even print your own images. Keep in mind though, these will be monochrome, not even grayscale, so they'll look stylized and kinda weird, and some images will definitely work better than others. Using the Selpic app, you can also print barcodes and QR codes, and that's either going to be the biggest deal about this to you, or you're not going to care at all. But if you're a super organized person, that could help you get even more super organized. Finally, the app also lets you select the surface you're printing on, which brings us to the part where, you print stuff. To start printing, simply create whatever it is you want to print in the app, then press the printer icon to send it to the P1. The app will work for a few seconds, then let you know if it succeeded or not. In my testing, it never didn't succeed, but then again, I wasn't trying to do anything crazy like send it to the printer across the other side of the house. It was always right here. Once the app is finished, all you need to do is hold the print button and roll the printer along whatever it is you want to print on. If you think that using a handheld printer would take a little bit of getting used to, you're right, it definitely did. That said, it didn't take as long as I thought it might, and before long, I was able to use it without really thinking about it. That said, when I first used the Selpic P1, I held it upside down, which created a mirror image of what I'd intended to print. This is actually kind of cool, and gained with the ability to print on glass, it can lead to some fun tricks. Now, Selpic is correct when they say that the P1 will print on nearly anything. The problem is, the ink doesn't always actually want to stay there. Glass worked surprisingly well, wood worked great, and plastic worked sometimes depending on the type of plastic. Paper, particularly slick paper like the outside of a notebook, was tricky. Even after leaving a print for hours, it was easy to wipe off some surfaces with a dry paper towel. Now, you'll need to take my word for it, but the notebook that you're seeing right here sat for hours and I was still able to just wipe it right off. Basically, you'll need to take your time and experiment a little bit to see what works well with the P1 and what doesn't work quite so well. This will play a big part in determining how useful or not the P1 is to you. Now, it took a while for me to think about what I would compare this to in terms of how useful it is. And the best comparison I keep coming back to is that it's kind of like a potato ricer. You can go your entire life without having one, and you're never going to miss it. That said, once you do have one, you'll be like, oh, this is useful. I can use this for all sort of things, and you'll probably find yourself using it more than you ever imagined you would. You almost certainly don't need this printer, but you might want it, and as soon as you get it, you'll probably find yourself using it a bunch. This is the type of thing that Gadget fans buy because they like gadgets, and sometimes that's all you need. For even more details like specs and fun stuff like that, check out the written companion to this video over at makeuseof.com. You'll find the link down in the description. Once you're done reading, you can even enter a giveaway to win this very printer for yourself. For this one, the video bonus question is print, 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 all one word. Thanks to Selpic for providing the review unit, and as always, thank you for watching.